Welcome to the class. Dr. O here. Today I'm going to talk about thinking like economist. So far we learned what is economics and the principles of economics. We summarize 3 principles simply and we go over one by one until now. And we have a better knowledge about economics as the time goes by and as learning a little bit more and more. Today, the focus is how economists, somebody who study economics and who are actually doing economics daily life, what they're doing and what is their mindset. That's the main point out of it. Let's get into it. Today's class, we're going to learn several things. Not that many, but we will go through one by one. First one is the roles. Generally, economist has 2 roles. We going over 2 roles and how it is different. It is a relating issue with, as we learned, normative and positive economics too. So that one category is giving the roles of general economist doing. And second thing is, generally economists doing economics, using the economics as a tool, analyzing real life. We detect some problems, some issues, some arguments in daily life. If it is applying or we considering under the economics, we think what's going on there, and we analyze it and explain it, how it happens. And eventually we want to say something, how we can deal with it. If it is a problem, it is an argument, it is a discussions, all those processes are necessary. After all, what you're going to do is to suggest some policy and direction, how or where to move. So that is a mindset of economists. And under that sense, we need to analyze real life happening or surrounding of our environment changes in everyday life. And then how we can analyze it. Well, in real life, it is really complicated. There is a lot of factor in our economic point of view, variables. You are familiar with the variables too. A lot of variables we cannot control, and we cannot think it is the effect by the chance or happening right now. So we need to simplify to analyze it and to find out the core impact of something happening around us. So we need model. Model itself is a simplified version of real life we can think of. Sometimes the model itself is very complicated, especially in economics, because it is composed with a bunch of equations. Sometimes the equation itself is, very specific, quadratic functions or linear functions, but sometimes it is more than that. And the model itself, when economists are setting up, it can be the advanced level of economics. A lot of you already have ability to dealing with the calculus. Calculus is a really important, mathematical tool to understand economics really easily. But more than that, there is a lot of, advanced level of mathematical technique is necessary. But in this class, don't worry much. We will not go further. Small sense of derivative, which is a calculus concept. Other than that, quadratic function, linear function is enough to deal with. So quadratic function, linear function, middle school or high school, we covered it already. So I think all of you or majority of you are comfortable with. But anyway, if you don't have any chance of calculus, it is not prerequisite for this class. But I try to explain it a little bit easily. But you have chance of dealing with all the derivative, right? Then it is much easier to understand and connecting with those calculus concepts to understand economic concept too. So we're dealing with the model, mathematical model generally, but visual graphical model too. So simply we will see, today we're going to see two models as an example of economic model. Very simple model. Don't panic. We can see and understand easily. I'll try to put it very simple as possible. So the two model I'm talking about is the one is a circular flow diagram, which is how economy is circulated. So yeah, it's a simple model. As you at a glance, you will realize what it is and what is showing us that core sense of how economy is running. So that is the first model. There's not that many analysis going on. We just want to see and explain how economy or country level or community levels, city levels, province level, whatever it is, how economy is circulated, we will see. The next model we are going to go through today is PPF, Production Possibility Frontier. It is really important concept, and also it is really powerful to deal with some specific aspect of economics, and it is applied to certain fields, especially in international trade, and you understand trade and the private trade and or in domestic trade also. Like before we learn about market systems or market model, supply demand model, we will learn a lot about it, and there is a lot of other things we can go through. So today is most of our focus or attention to understand the PPF. Before that, why do we need it and how economists dealing with this model is another thing we need to go through before looking at the PPF. Now, we are thinking about what exactly the economists are doing. The economist is working as a scientist. Economics itself is a social science. Economists are doing a science. So, economist as a scientist. As a scientist, we observing certain phenomenon and it's happening in surrounding or in our community, in our country, what we are, going to do with it. Observing it, oh yeah, there is a stylized effect, which is, oh yeah, something is going on. That's weird, strange. Then people get attention about that fact and try to analyze it. If it is bad, how we can fix it. If it is good, how we can improve it, make it better. So in that perspective, we need to analyze and we need to understand the core of what's going on there, like a big picture of what is happening right now. But as a scientist, economists are doing analysis about what is going on right now. And another role of economist is, in realistic setup. What do you need to do? It is fun to do analyzing and understand and finding out the real factor about what is going on right here, right? Something happens, there is a stylized fact, then why it is happening. Understand that is a really important role for the economist. But that's just one side of it. As a scientist, they do. But there is a limitation. What? Yeah, it is. Just to understand the fact or just to understand of trend is not enough to live daily life. What do you need to do? We need to prepare the future, and we need to build our society better. Under that sense, we as economists try to suggest some policy suggestion to the government or to the head of a society, head of community, somebody who have power, to make our society better. So another rule is policy advisor. We realize the fact, what is going on and what something bad happening, we try to fix it. If something good is happening, how we can improve it, make it better. In that perspective, two roles. As a scientist, we analyze it. As a policy advisor perspective, giving out some good suggestion to make our society, our community better. Under that two roles, so first thing we need to do is realize what's really going on here. We observing real life phenomenon. And then we try to analyze and then explain it. Why it has happened, how it is bad like this, and what type of thing or what kind of factor is affecting this kind of situation. Understanding better makes us easier to approach the problems and fix it. Or something is good, then we can making a better suggestion and get going right way all the time. Before that, giving out the suggestion, we need to understand correctly. So under that process, we need to building up the set or the environment or the thing to explain really well, analyze it. So under the process, we are doing or making a model. There is a lot of example of model, right? In real life, fashion model. What does a fashion model do? Model airplane. Some things as a model, like some toys as a model. Like there is a real airplane, but small airplane, which is showing you the characteristic or shape of airplane, and some toys has some doors and wheels, lots of gears to activate it when you play with it. What they do, they show not exactly in real airplane, but they show the characteristic or shape of it to see how the airplane looks like and how they functioning correctly. Fashion model gives you the suggestion that how the clothing look like, or bag look like, glasses looks like. So everyday wearing, you can think that that will look if I wear it, and that looks good. That shows actually you are not wearing it, but by observing that model, how the clothing or accessories looks like on the exact people. So that is necessary to building a model, to realizing or understanding or before actual analyzing it. So model itself is simplified version of real life. Then what do we need to do to make a model? Especially in social science setup or economics setup. Then we need this. There is a very complicated real life. Everyday life, there is a lot of factors. We live a life. And even we cannot imagine some kind of variables or is affecting our daily life, but we ignores. Time goes by, everything changes, but we simply ignore the time changes. Actually, spatial awareness. Think about this. We are living a three-dimensional world. Well, three-dimensional world as a definition. We have x-axis, y-axis, and z-axis to positioning some object is around us. In front of me, the camera is here. In front of me, mic is here. We can putting a mathematical setup as a coordination of x, y, z, and we can realize that how far the object is from me. But time is going, so the camera itself is not exactly the same camera 5 seconds ago. But we ignore it, we're living a life. Should we think all the variable all the time? No, it's so complicated. Sometimes it's, makes us confused. and cannot find the exact reason of why some thing is happening right now. So first thing we need to do is simplify it to make a model. Model is what? To analyze some happening at this point better. The reason to make a model is like that, right? So we need an assumption to build a model. So that is not necessary. It is the redundant. Some variables are mixed effect on some kind of happenings or phenomenon. So we make assumption and cut down all the complication of real life. That's what we do in general to make model. So under the certain assumption, we simplify the real life phenomenon and make a better model for it. So complexity in real life is really hard to looking at it and go through it. So with the several assumptions, a bunch of assumptions to make the real life to make a simpler version of it. That's nothing but model we are looking at in daily life. So simply, model is a highly simplified version of real life you can think of. So economists are using this model all the time to analyze real happening phenomenon in daily life. Today, first model we are looking at is circular flow. As you can see in the picture around us, around me right now, just a simple version of it, right? You can just at a glance you can understand this. This one shows this circular flow diagram. This model itself is a separate version as what is a player of this environment. But this specific model I'm showing right now is two economic agent is presented right here. Number one is the firms, the companies, and another one is individual, which is household. Households and the firms are acting and reacting each other, response each other, and then the economy is going. So we understand that firms or companies try to produce a product. Their purpose is profit, right? They want to make money. But in economics, we are saying that money as profit. Companies or firms try to maximizing their profit, earning more money out of it, of their actions. So what they're doing is a production process. Some product, services they produce and selling it to consumer. Under that production process, they need some kind of input, production input to produce things, and they need the materials. And without any other inputs like labor and capital, we categorize it. We cannot build it or produce it. So raw materials and input at the input factor, which is labor and capital, is necessary to the process to produce the product, goods and services generally. So they buy from the household. Usually household holding all the inputs. Household or individual have laboring time and their capital, their assets. They invest to the firms, and they demand that as an input factor, labor and capital, and producing process, and finding out the better way to produce outputs. So production process is going on as the side of firms, which is producer. So one big part of microeconomics is analyzing production side, which is called production theory. Producer theory analyze that how companies or firms are behaving under the setting of economic environment. So one part is firms right here. They try to demand labor and capital from the household, and they pay the reward for it. If you're providing labor, what do you get? Wage. So we say money, we earn money, but labor income itself is wage. Wages are determined in the market, as we learned about market theory. Labor supply and labor demand meets labor equilibrium is delivered, which is wage is determined. That is called equilibrium wage. In the labor market, wage is determined. Exactly same sense, capital market. Every household provide their invest amount to the capital market, so they supply capital, and as a company, they need capital to production process, they demand capital. Well, this side is a little bit awkward to understand it because we are so comfortable to think that we are consumer all the time. So daily life, we live a life, we need to buy things and using services all the time. We demand, outputs, but we supply labor and capital as an individual, as household. So one side is household, another side is firm. There is other, economic agent can be involved, government, taxes involved, but this one is missing at this model as a simple version of it. So two actions is going on right here, firms and households. And the next one we can think of is goods and services market, which is we daily think of it, right? We easily approach this part of understanding because we every day we think about it. So we go out to market, buy things. So producer, some outputs or goods and services they bring over to the markets and they try to sell. So they're selling the product, which means supply the outputs, supply goods and services, and as a household, as a consumer, we consume the goods. That's it, demand side. And demand and supply meets at the market, goods and services market, and equilibrium determined, which is equilibrium price. Well, the quantity itself is at the same time, simultaneously, it is determined in the equilibrium point, but the point itself and the first part we are looking at is the price side. So equilibrium price is determined in the goods and services market. Consumer going to buy the goods and services, producer going to the market to selling it as a supply of the outputs, which is goods and services. So they interact each other. So the money value point of view is circulated. Consumer buying a goods, and that money is going to the firms. Firms demand labor and capital, and they give out the money out of it. So money is circulated this way and that way, like output or actual thing is moving out one direction. In other way, it's a transaction. Once we receive or getting goods and services, we pay money out of it. So that's the price we pay to enjoy the consumption of outputs or goods and services. So that circulation is shown in circular flow diagram. That's not fancy, just showing us that how economy is going. Everybody just look at the glance and realize it, right? What's going on there. And each one of the words or some expression or explanation is changes by textbook, but you understand what's going on there. So interaction of it. So one part of it, firm side, producer theory. Household side, we going out to the goods and services market and consume. What is our purpose? Especially in goods and services market, as a consumer perspective, maximizing our happiness. Well, it is depending on the philosophy and how you looking at the real life, but under the economics, we believe that consumer, each individual consumer, try to maximizing their utility, but in other words, your happiness or your contentment. So by consuming of goods and services, your excitement or contentment or happiness is increasing. How we can maximizing our happiness by selecting some sets of goods and services, and how much of goods and services and how much price you need to pay, you determine, go to the market and decide what kind of product you're buying or consume, like that. So that part is consumer theory. Generally, during this semester, we are looking at the consumer theory and producer theory, some part of it. So that is a big part of economics, especially microeconomics. Microeconomics can be separated or categorized big three parts. There is a specific small part of it, but consumer theory is one, producer theory is a second, and market theory is a third. So those three big, theory or category of it, you have a good understanding of microeconomics. So generally what we are going to do during this semester. So that shows a big picture of what we are going to do. What we are going to do, those kind of lines of study, we putting in the role of government and think about what should government do under this situation one by one. But generally, we are go through consumer theory, producer theory, and market systems, market theory as time goes by. The second model what you're going to understand today is PPF, Production Possibility Frontier. Sometimes we are saying that PPC, Production Possibility Curve. Well, first time, and as you can see right here, PPF itself is a linear, straight line, right? How come it is a curve? Oh, curve is covered or, contains the concept of straight line to curvy line. So curve itself doesn't limit it to the curve, but also includes the straight line. Anyway, PPF, Production Possibility Frontier, or Production Possibility Curve, doesn't matter depending on the textbook, but the concept itself is exactly same concept, different wording for the PPF or PPC. So let's see, PPF. What is PPF? Production possibility. If it is curve or frontier, it doesn't matter, but production possibility. What does a production possibility? Every economy come up with this kind of scenario or setting. Let's say our community have 10 people. Okay, 10 people have 24 hours, but we need to take a rest, maybe 8 hours of sleeping and some eating, 16 hours of day, additional hours to doing something else. Maybe we need to generally 8 hours of leisure and 8 hours of working or whatever as productive side of it. Well, leisure itself is just to take a rest in some sense, and to building of your creativity to doing something else in your economic activities. But still, let's just assume that every single person have 8 hours of working hour. So 10 people living in this community, then 80 hours of working or labor is our resources. In other words, endowment. And let's say some kind of raw materials exists as our property of communities, or some other raw materials exist. So it can be used as a capital for our production process. Under that, used up all possible resources. Even though it is limited, but we using that all the resources, how much, how many goods or services can produce. So there is a lots of output we can produce. That's a lot of goods we can produce. But simply, let's say we can produce only two outputs or two goods. For this example, wheat and computer. So we have assumptions, right? In our community or in our economy, certain amount of labor exists as endowment, as our property, as our resource. And also some capital exists. We are going to use wisely, efficiently, these resources to building or to produce wheat or computers. This is our assumption. It can be 2 people, it can be 10 people, 1,000, or as a country level, we can think of this. But we assume that we only can produce 2 outputs for simplification, right? As a model. So this is a really good starting point to building a model or think under the model, inside of the model. So every economy have some resources, labor and capital, and using that labor and capital or resources, limited resources, and to produce specific number of goods. It can be 3-dimension if you think of 3 outputs, but we looking and drawing easily with the 2-dimension. So yeah, X, Y axis, right? And we assume that computers and wheat. So PPF looks like this. Let's see one by one. So, before that, PPF, right? PPF is a graphic, right? Graphical presentation. That's a graph that shows the combination of 2 goods that can be produced in this economy by using all possible limited resources. And under that, we ignore one thing, right? We're just calling it as a technology. Yeah, we're using as a technology as a word here and there. But under this production process, we use a technology as something like a function, production function. We cannot directly mention about it or roles about it as we simply call the technology. So something we cannot analyze that much, we think or refer as a technology. So we're using certain technology to produce computer and wheat right here, using all our resources. We do have knowledge collections and informations and situations, but it doesn't showing one by one specifically. But we can think of some functional relations. We putting up certain amount of labor and capital. We can produce certain amount of wheat and certain amount of computer. But the combination of it using all our resources wisely, efficiently, and we can draw the frontier, maximum amount of combination of wheat and computers under this space as graphical presentation. So one thing we are very comfortable with is just a linear, right? So you have good knowledge about linear function, which is coming from the middle school in general. So you are very comfortable to present like this PPF model. Well, economics itself, yeah, we're borrowing lots of technique from the mathematical, mathematical treatment. So sometimes you have a little bit of discomfort, but just hanging a little bit there. And I try to explain what is the meaning of it. And we go through one by one. How does, act with those kind of characteristics, mathematical characteristics to understand, economic characteristic or properties. So don't be in despair. If you have any question, let me know. Sometimes it sounds like stupid, but there is no such a shame on it, right? If you don't know about it or don't understand, it's not comfortable, feel free to ask questions. And let's think about, what is a better way to understand this kind of concept. So in general economics, there is no prerequisite. So generally you graduate high school or even in middle school, you can understand a lot of economic concept. As time goes by, we can be a little bit technical in the sense of mathematics, but yeah, we can explain or we can present a little bit different way to understand better. So mathematics is one of a tool, right? Not a hurdle or burden for you guys. The reason why we are showing this graphical presentation is to understand better the situation. So returning to the PPF is downward sloping like linear function, but yeah, that looks like it. So it is representing that each one of economy or community, how many combination of two goods can be produced by efficiently using limited resources. That's what PPF is. Now we need to think about some connection or relationship between PPF and opportunity cost. First of all, let me introduce opportunity cost. There is a lot of cost. We can see the cost, and generally we understand the cost well. But opportunity cost is a little bit different from the accounting cost, under the sense that we ignore things, or explicitly we can understand a certain cost is involving. But opportunity cost is a little bit different in the sense that we need to understand that just numerical cost is not the cost we are thinking to make a better decision. So opportunity cost is considering like this. Instead of doing this, what is the best alternative you need to pick in the sense of certain amount of cost? So you want to buy certain product as $100. Oh, the cost is $100. But actually, you selecting that and then consuming it is not, the cost itself is $100. Accounting cost, you pay $100, the cost is $100 itself. But opportunity cost perspective, it is not. How it is not? Using that $100, what can you do better? Like there is a $100, using the $100 or consuming the $100, you can buy lots of other things. You can put it in the bank and you can earn 1 month later, you can, increasing interest rate is increasing 5% and monthly, that usually yearly, interest rate, by saying that monthly 5% of interest, then 1 month later, you will get $105. Instead of doing that, you consume right now, right? So the cost can be $105, or you can buy $99 worth of some other product instead of buying this, and then enjoying $1 out of other activities. So we are not just consuming $100 or paying $100 right here. Opportunity cost perspective, we can think of $105. Instead of I getting $105, I consume right now. So all those collection, all those possible selection or alternatives, what is the best, giving you the best benefit? Instead of selecting that, you pick the one. So opportunity cost perspective, that best alternative, the cost of it is opportunity cost instead of accounting cost. So making a decision perspective, we need to think about opportunity cost instead of accounting cost. It is really hard in general setting. In daily life is a lot of factor we can see, and I emphasized before the building a model. Under that sense, calculating exact opportunity cost is not easy, but making a best selection or the decision, we need to think about what is a better option and what is your best alternative all the time, and compare with that and make a decision out of it. Not easy in real life, but theoretically we need to think about it. And under the sense that we say cost in economics, we referring opportunity cost all the time. Keep in mind that. So the relationship between PPF and opportunity cost. So we will think about this. The PPF itself downwards sloping, isn't it? We're looking at that. And let's think about this scenario. We produce one by one or on top of PPF line. Each one of a point can be, produced if we efficiently using our resources. So, starting with the left-hand side, like wheat, we produce only wheat, and then we try to combine with the number of computers and wheat, right? So more computer, 1 computer, 2 computer, 3 computer, we try to build in more computer. We need to cut down the production of wheat. What is that? Yeah, that's nothing but opportunity cost. To produce more computer, we need to give up the production of wheat. We cannot just, staying with the maximum level of wheat outputs and then increasing number of computer production. Why? Our labor and capital, our resources are limited. In other words, it's a trade-offs. You try to build more computers you need to cut down production of wheat. Trade-offs relationship. So that PPF is showing the opportunity cost situation and trade-offs relations to producing one output to the another output. And downwards sloping PPF curve giving you the opportunity cost, right? If it is upward sloping, you can come up with producing wheat and computer at the same time, increasing the amount of it. But that is not possible under the sense of, economics. We have limited resources. So we need to efficiently decide how much and how many labor and capitals to produce one goods over another good. So that's the opportunity cost and the relationship between the PPF. Now let me introduce one more concept of PPF changes. PPF itself can be changed as time goes by. Why? Because economic environment changes. As time goes by, number of labor changes. Think about this. Yeah, we have 10 people in our community as one example of, earlier I give you the example of it. And let's say 8 hours per day they can work, then 80 hours is a total labor in our community or economy. Then, as time goes by, people can be born, right? Population increases. What does that mean? Labor increases. Make sense? And also capital itself, capital accumulation. As economy goes by and there is a lot of, abundant output is coming out, then they can save and they reinvest into the production process. And also, we say technology improved. We can save a lot of time to doing our labor, to doing certain tasks by, inventing of computers and computing powers and memory chips and CPUs. That technology increases. PPF can be changed. So, economic growth, economy, or potential of each one of the economy can produce. What is the GDP? Yeah, GDP showing us the capacity of economy, production possibility of economy as a country level, right? We'll see a lot in macroeconomics, and the first concept or first variable we need to look at is GDP. But still, PPF's concept itself is showing the other side of production capacity of our economy or community. So economic growth is coming out from the labor increases, capital increases, or technology improvement. There is a lot of other things can happen, but mainly simple reason how economy grow is population grow, labor force grow, or capital accumulation. The speed is faster and faster, and the capital accumulation is higher and higher. Then our resources to produce production process is higher. Then economy grow. So economic growth is involving then PPF. How we can think of it under the exactly same situation, the capacity increases. Then our PPF, by looking at it, PPF move to the right hand side, northeast directions, isn't it? Without doing anything, or in the PPF model itself, there's nothing changes, but PPF is moving outside of it. Why it is happening, we can analyze it. We can think of it. Using the data, we can prove it though, right? So labor increases, capital increases, technology increases, the production can be going more efficiently. The area we can see as a PPF, left-hand side of it, triangular shape. If it is, PPF is a straight line, that triangular area is increasing by economic growth is involving. We will go through this, next time, behind the scene of PPF more thoroughly, like it's using the examples and some kind of numerical values, and by doing so you have a better understanding of PPF next time. Next thing we are looking at is the slope of PPF. PPF is downward sloping. That shows what trade-offs relationship. To produce more computers, you need to cut down on production of wheat. X and Y, whatever goods you are putting in, doesn't matter, but the relation itself of producing one good or over another has always come up with negative, right? To building up one thing more, and you need to cut down out of other goods production. So trade-offs relationship, opportunity cost is involving in the process. But the shape itself, downward sloping. But I told you, PPF can be called differently as a PPC, production possibility curve. Why they say curve? It is straight. In general, PPF looks like curve. Well, but simply we have learned linear function way before that quadratics or curvy lines, and straight line is more intuitive to understand. So we building up with the simple and moving forward to the advanced level of it. In general, we believe that PPF is curved out, like concave to the origin in mathematical saying, but it is curved out like bowl shape. It's the one side of a quarter side of the bowl shape of curvy line is in general realistic PPF looks like. How does it say and what does that mean? We are going through more on next time. But our interpretations, so a little bit of it, the slope itself. Well, let's think about this. PPF, the slope of PPF, what does that mean? If it is -1, then what does that mean? Well, that's opportunity cost. What? Opportunity cost. In the sense that we can think this way. So if the slope is -1, what does that mean? Mathematically, you can think of this. You produce one more computer, you need to cut down 1 unit of production of wheat. That is nothing but -1. So the slope itself is showing numerical relationship between how much we give up to one good to produce another good. So the slope of PPF, the meaning of it is like that. Think about that. And sometimes intuitively you can understand that. Oh yeah, it is. But if somebody is not comfortable with it, yeah, we're going through a little bit more next time. So don't panic or worry about much of it. We will see that, go through that one more time. A little bit in detail. So today we are going through the economic model. Why? Economists try to analyzing real life, so they are most likely using model. So model gives you a good tool to analyzing things or reality. Why? Reality is very complicated and lots of variable and factors is affecting on one scenario or situation. So we cannot say, or we cannot explain anything about all the variable involving under situation. But we cut out all the complex number of variables excluded, and simply looking at bunch of 2-3 variables at once, and then analyzing which one is most impact on the situation. So we use the model. So using the model, we try to explain what's economists going as an economist point of view. So we learn 2 models today: circular flow diagram, circular flow model, which is giving you the big picture of how economy is going and circulating. And the next one is PPF. PPF showing the capacity or the ability to produce things. In the simple model, we building 2 goods or services at the same time under certain number of situation. Then we can build up the PPF. How many goods and services can be produced within our economy under the limited resources, given amount of labor and capital, how many computers and wheats can be built. So I slightly touched about the curved PPF lines very last moment, but we are looking at the next time. So today we're all about the modeling, and the most important, and there is a lot of application of it, is a PPF model. We will see this model to doing or finding out how trade happens, international trade happens, how people decide to how much one good and another goods produced, and what is the efficient and what is economic growth, and all those things can be explained by PPF. So it's a simple model, but has a really powerful application on it. So we will see a little bit in detail in the next time. Today, let me summarize it like this, and see you next time. Have a good one.